Hello everyone, it's me Arden Lee. I'm back today with another video, and today's video is about how to break the cycle of anxiety and depression. Now, I want to make a disclaimer before I get into this that if you're someone who has clinical depression or you've been diagnosed with anxiety, then this 12-minute video is not going to be a substitute for professional help and getting that one-on-one either counseling or therapy or whatever medication a professional may prescribe you if you feel that that medication is working for you. However, we all get into cycles sometimes where we get depressed and we get anxious, especially when it's seasonal depression season and we don't have a lot of sunlight outside, and we want to hibernate or what have you, or we're going through a painful, difficult time of our life, or we're just feeling overwhelmed, or we're feeling exhausted and we've gotten kind of into a rut. So that's what this video is going to be about today. And of course, even if you do struggle with more serious depression and anxiety, I also hope that this is helpful for you, at least as a supplement. But of course, as always, if it is severe, you want to make sure that you're also working with a professional. So before I get into some of my tips for breaking the cycle of anxiety and depression, of course, as always, if you are not yet familiar with me and my work, my name is Arden Lee, and I am the creator of the Repatterning Project, which is an 8-week course where we hack our beliefs and we examine our patterns in order to bring more conscious mindfulness to our everyday habits and decisions and the beliefs that we choose for ourselves, so that we can open the doors to the pathways to our success, our happiness, and our fulfillment. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, go ahead and check out the description box, where I have a link to a free PDF guide about the Repatterning Project so you can learn a little bit more about what it is that we do. And I also have a link to a free Facebook community that I moderate called the Repatterning Parlor, for like-minded individuals who are coming together to source support on their own personal growth and self-development journeys. So go ahead and check those things out. And as always, of course, subscribe to my channel if you like this video and if this sounds like your thing. I love to see more subscribers on my channel to know that I'm helping as many people as possible. So if you like it, I'd love to help you out. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the cycles of anxiety and depression. The biggest thing that I understand to be true about breaking ourselves out of a rut is that we typically tend to know what action steps we need to take to break out of that cycle, but we're actually too depressed and too anxious to do them. So this becomes a bit of just a bit of an Ouroboros, a bit of a room with no doors that we find ourselves sort of locked in, because we know that, I don't need to tell you guys at this point probably that things like sunlight, things like exercise, things like eating well and, being healthy are all things that help us to regulate our emotions and regulate the wellness of our bodies. And of course, the wellness of our bodies is of course related to the wellness of our emotional bodies as well. The problem is when we're in that state, everything feels so hopeless that we feel like, well, what's the point? What am I supposed to do? Exercise? But the funny thing is, at all the times in my life when I was like, what am I supposed to do? Exercise? Most of the time I wasn't actually exercising. So I was sort of disdaining these these things that I knew in my heart would probably make a difference. And it's like, it always surprises me, you guys. Like, it always surprises me again when it works. When I'm feeling depressed, sometimes, I've gone through cycles of depression where, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm so upset and I'm so paralyzed with anxiety and I feel so depressed and so heavy with lethargy, sometimes at the same time that I don't even want to get out of bed. It feels better in the moment to just stay in bed and hide under the covers and, hi Virgil, and to snuggle with Virgil. Actually, snuggling with Virgil sometimes does help, because he's a very empathetic cat, and he can sometimes help cheer me up when I'm feeling kind of blue. So having a great relationship with a pet, if you have one, if you have the means to have one, can also help sometimes, right, Virg? He knows that. But sometimes when I'm feeling that way, when I've been feeling that way in the past, I give into that temptation to just stay in bed the whole time. And when I finally muster up the will to leave the house, I'm like, oh, that was easy. Like, wow, why didn't I do that before, you know? And sometimes it is just a matter of that mindfulness of remembering to do the things that actually make us feel good. So how can we remember to do the things that actually make us feel good? Okay, here's the solution to that one. So during your life, you know, whether you're depressed and anxious, or you know, even better, you know, when you're feeling good, you want to start keeping track of your moods. Whether you use a mood journal, whether you use a mood tracking app, you know, whatever it takes, you want to start bringing mindfulness to the things that you do and how they make you feel afterwards, right? Like if I, you know, I always give the example of if I have coffee with a friend, I feel super motivated afterwards. Why? Because, well, first of all, I've had a coffee, so I have some caffeine, you know, I have some pep in my step, as it were. And also, if I've spent time with a friend, I've probably spent time with them talking out some of the projects that I'm working on, some of the things that I'm into, and in reiterating the things that I'm doing and stating their purpose once again, I remind myself through my words and through voicing my words out loud, I remind myself of why those things were important to me. So whenever I have coffee with a friend and I talk about the work that I'm doing, I feel like, oh my gosh, I want to go home and do more work on this thing that I'm working on, you know, because all of a sudden I feel super motivated, I feel super inspired. So when I'm feeling unmotivated, when I'm feeling uninspired, you know, I have to remind myself all the time. This is why I use this one as an example a lot, you know. I remind myself, go have coffee with a friend, right? There are certain friends in my life too who, you know, where when I'm feeling anxious, or when I feel like I have a problem that needs solving or whatever, there are some people in my life that I can call, and the minute they pick up the phone, I start to feel better because I know that this person who's in my life loves me and cares about me and wants me to feel better. So the minute I connect with that energy, I already feel like, oh my gosh, things are about to get better. And you know, inevitably they you know, generally have a couple of suggestions also that work for me, but sometimes just the anchor of hearing their voice and knowing that they care about me is enough to calm down my anxiety, right? So you want to start keeping track of what actions you take in your life make you feel in what mood. And then you want to backwards engineer that. So if you start to keep a journal of those things, you can start making a list and say, all right, you know, how do I want to feel right now? And what can I do? And you want to keep that list handy. In fact, if you're someone who's suffering from depression and anxiety, and especially if you're someone who, like me, when you get that way, you just want to stay in bed all day, I would keep that list literally like in your bedside nightstand, you know, in your night table. Just keep it in that drawer right there. Keep it handy. And so when you start to feel that depression and that anxiety well up in you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling, you know, I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling anxious again. You know, what should I do? I just want to stay in bed. You know, if you can have just that thought, just that enough mindfulness to reach over to your nightstand and open the drawer and look at the list of things that you could possibly do to feel better, then there's going to be something on that list that you'll feel well enough to do, right? Just pick one. Just pick whichever one feels like the easiest one, the most accessible one to you, to level up your state that much, you know? And even for me, if it's just like, I have to remember sometimes that, like, just leaving the house makes me feel better. Making sure that I've eaten that day, you know? So like leaving the house to go to a familiar restaurant where I can sit down and, you know, have a drink and have a, you know, a healthy meal or something like that, you know, whatever it is that does it for you, just remembering that it's in my power to do that and giving myself permission to go and do it makes me automatically feel better. And then even if I feel just like 15% better than I did before, then I can go back to my list again and say, okay, well, I feel a little bit better. I'm not 100% of the way there, but now I feel well enough to also do this thing on my list and do this thing on my list. And maybe the next one is like, you know, call a friend, you know, especially, you know, you guys, we rely so much on text messaging nowadays. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, like I love text messaging. Like I use it all the time, and I love having my conversations there where I can read them. And, you know me in language, so I love being able to write things rather than speak things because I feel like I'm wittier that way or whatever. So no shade on text messaging, but don't underestimate the power of hearing someone's voice on the phone, and even more so if you can, Skype or FaceTime, you know, be able to look at someone, you know, even if you feel like, oh my God, I'm a mess, I'm in my pajamas and I'm in bed, if you get that face-to-face human contact, I mean, yeah, you're looking at a screen, sure, it's, you know, it's maybe an actual visit from a friend would be even better, but you know, certainly being able to take as many baby steps as possible, you know, so being able to read someone's facial cues, to see in their faces that, you know, that they care about you, that they're there for you, to be able to read that warmth and nurturing in their faces. That's going to do a lot for you. It's going to do even more than talking on the phone would, and talking on the phone is going to do even more than texting would. So you know, keep those things in mind. And ultimately, you know, ultimately breaking out of that cycle is just about having the strength in the moment to have enough mindfulness to reach for the things that you know make you feel better. So I'm gonna wrap up this video with a quote. I've been reading this book, The Miracle Morning. Oh my God, you guys, it's like, I start to feel better like just reading it. But there was this really terrific quote. Oh my gosh, before I put on the video, I really should have actually, I should have looked it up before then. But it's actually a quote. It's not by the author Hal Elrod. It's actually by, he quotes an author by the name of Matthew Kelly. And here it is. What Matthew Kelly says in his book, The Rhythm of Life, is he says, on the one hand, we all want to be happy. On the other hand, we all know the things that make us happy, but we don't do those things. Why? Simple. We're too busy. Too busy doing what? Too busy trying to be happy. So I'm going to leave you with that quote there. We all know the things that break us out of those cycles. If we don't know them, it's a good idea to start bringing more mindfulness to them, write them down and have them there, have them nearby, have them accessible to you when you're in that moment, so that when you're feeling bad, you can reach for that and you can say, all right, I've got several things that I know I can do that are going to get me into a state that is at least that much better. And when I'm that much better, then I can continue making progress from there. And soon you're going to feel much more confident about your ability to break yourself out of that rut and start feeling better again. So thank you all for listening. Again, I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.